Welcome to the SCL podcast, filmed in the MD Acoustics anechoic chamber at their testing facility in beautiful Gilbert, Arizona. Today, we are joined by Jeremy Elsesser, President and CEO of Level 3 Audiovisual, a leading integrator of audiovisual, smart space technology, and immersive design. With over 2 decades in the audiovisual sphere, Jeremy combines innovation and leadership with a passion for quality, education, and the future of audiovisual experiences.
So you are running a company right now, right? You're the CEO of Level 3.
Yep.
Level 3 Audio.
Level 3 Audiovisual.
Can you give us a little bit of history on that?
Yeah, geez. So Level 3 Audiovisual is a commercial audiovisual integration firm based here in Mesa, Arizona.
Okay.
We started in 1996 by a gentleman by the name of Brad Peterson, who is still there today as my partner in the business. So in 96, I was not there. He started the business. I didn't come in until about 2003. We were very small, small team, maybe 10 people total, focused in the higher education and kind of corporate AV space, right? Installing TVs at the hundreds within restaurants back in those days. And I had been going to school and pursuing a career in IT and network engineering, but had come across Level 3 Audiovisual in early days. So to give the full origin story, since we've got the time, I went to school for network engineering. While I was going to school, I was working as a commercial electrician here in the Valley. I did all the electrical for a restaurant that Level 3 was doing all the AV for.
Uh-huh.
So of course I'm like, well, what they're doing seems very cool compared to what I'm doing. Electrical work is awesome, and it's probably one of the things that has been the most impactful in my career, that I had no idea that learning how to be a commercial electrician would have an impact as a network engineer or as a audiovisual person, but it did. But hey, I might have spent some misspent youth in the deserts of Arizona throwing raves, so I had a pretty significant interest in audio, big lighting systems, those types of things. So I had a pretty solid hobby interest, I would say, in audio. So got interested, actually took a week off from the electrical company to go pull cable with Level 3, and was like thinking about leaving to go to work for Level 3. At the same time, met my next boss in school, who worked at the Southwest Naturopathic School of Healing, which I think just recently changed their name to Sonora. So I said, thanks, Level 3, but I'm going to go be a network engineer at a college because that's what I'm going to school for. Yeah. And then this is a funny story. I helped them get off all the pirated software that they were running the business on back in the day. Because this is back before all the
could pirate stuff. That's right. I do remember that.
That's it. Like, they have all figured it out. We're all in the cloud now, and there's no more pirating software. But like any good small business, you're running your whole business in early 2000s on pirated software.
I remember just trying to get MP3s or whatever. You could use pirated software to just get all that stuff. Oh, yes. Anyway.
I think I installed Photoshop on like 400 computers at one point, like one license of Photoshop. Yeah, we don't do that anymore.
No, definitely. This is when you're struggling.
I did it. It was a savior in college.
No.
So
they got smart.
It was like, seriously, man, that little green disc with that code at the bottom, man, that was a huge savings, especially if you were a college student.
That's what I used it a lot.
So you got them off those platforms.
Small company, they needed IT support, so I started moonlighting doing IT support for Level 3 at that point, and stayed in touch with them, helped them get off all their pirated software, and helped keep their systems running for a while, and stayed in touch. And then eventually Brad had designs to grow the business. His other business partner at the time did not, so Brad bought him out. Actually, there's some more detail around that in terms of dissolving the business and starting a new one, Level 3, because they just didn't see eye to eye on where he wanted to take the business. Yeah. So once he did that, the partner he bought out was his AMX programmer. So in the world of commercial audiovisual, you do Crestron and AMX programming, control system automation to make these big complex systems work together.
So these are 2 different platforms?
AMX and Crestron?
Yes.
Yes, totally.
And they're the 2 biggest?
I would say yes.
All right.
Certainly back then. I mean, there's a couple of other players on the scene, but we're
going to circle back to that in a little bit. So I'm just going to remember that. I want to put a pin on
Good.
that. All right.
Yeah, they dominate the space for having like ecosystems for control and basically all commercial AV switching, distribution, everything that you need to design big systems. Cool. So anyway, his partner was the programmer. As soon as he got him out of the business, they didn't have any programming. Hey, Jeremy, do you want to come to work? So I'm now over at the college working as a network administrator, IT guy. Do you want to come learn how to do programming? And this was like the year that AV started to become network connected. So we've been talking about the AV IT convergence for like ever in the AV industry. I came from IT. I remember them calling me that day and say, hey, have you ever heard of AMX? And I said, no, what's AMX? They said, well, it's this control system platform. And I pulled it up on the web, and it was like the year that they literally put the first network port on the back of this, because all of these automation systems were totally separate. They were their own cable plant. They were not connected to any other subsystems. They were totally their own separate thing until we started putting everything on the network. And like, we can't imagine anything not being on the network now, but that was happening right at early 2000s, 2001, 2002. The OEMs, the manufacturers in AV, were starting to get smart with the fact that they needed to get their systems on the network. So my comment was, well, it has a network port on it, so I'm sure I can figure it out. Yeah. Like, that's literally what I said. What I didn't realize is that it was actually object-oriented programming, and I needed to go learn how to write code, which I had the mind for it. Like, there is a parallel universe where I could be writing code right now and be very happy doing that. Sure. It just didn't work out that way. Got into an opportunity to help grow a small business. So came on board level 3. We were really, really small. Like I said, under 10 people, and got to be in on the ground floor opportunity of really helping build the company from an operational perspective. And that's what my proclivity is, I guess, is scaling operations and trying to build something that's scalable and going after enterprise. And in the last 5, 6, 7 years, we've gone global as an organization. Wow. So I kind of just shortcut the last 20 years, but that's how I got into level 3.
Oh, real simple. That's right? How it started. You just made it, hey, no challenges at all. It was just...
Once I was in, we were there.
You were a rocket ship to success.
No, we don't actually have enough time to ride that roller coaster together.
So wait, today, how big are you? Because you said 10-ish folks when you first started.
Yeah, so we're right around about 125 folks.
Okay. All right, nice.
Most of them here in Arizona, I would say 70-80% here in Arizona, but a number of them spread out around the country. And we actually have a number of employees in India and in London and some other places, because we are doing work globally. So just the nature of trying to get human capital into the same time zones that your clients are working in is a huge challenge when you're dealing with international work.
That's some pretty good growth in a pretty short amount of time, really.
Yeah, it's funny. I agree with that statement, Nate. That was a good call. You guys said you weren't going to laugh.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, let's keep it going. I got to keep a straight face.
So, it's interesting because I think there's different perspectives on that. Like, I've talked to plenty of people that are like, we're going to go from this to this in such a short period of time. And it's like, well, that's an approach. You can dump money in it. All of us, it's been organic, self-funded growth 100% of the time. Sometimes it feels like it took a lot longer than it should. Yeah. But then, I fought through it, all the pain that came along with it. And it's like, in some respects, I can't believe we're where we're at right now. Right. Yeah. So it's interesting.
That's got to feel pretty good to, as you weather storms, or because there's obviously between 2003 to now, you've had several dips and crazy things going on, right? In recessions.
2008, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah. Those years were tough.
2020.
Yeah. Potentially.
I'm still reeling from COVID. That was just crazy.
Yeah. It's but to weather that, right? And how long have you been at the CEO title?
So I've been at the CEO title.
We should say the C-suite.
C-suite for over 15 years, but really focused on the operations. So what I've really spent the first 15 years of my life at level 3 was build the operations team, learn audiovisual design, project management, build the process that is all about executing, while Brad and the rest of his team did the sales side of it.
Got it.
So that's been my job for a long time. And then Brad, as he's kind of getting up in age. I'm sure he's going to love hearing that when he hears.
He's still
hears
20 years young.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
But as he's kind of transitioned into some different roles, it became clear that for us to kind of continue to grow as a company, we needed to continue to evolve our structure and our leadership team. So eventually, we actually implemented a system called EOS. Are you familiar? It's called Entrepreneurial Operating System, built on a book called Traction. I will give you a copy of the book. It's fantastic.
I'll read it.
Really, it's a framework to kind of manage your leadership team and manage all of how you process issues within a company and actually get stuff done.
Issues in a company? What are you talking about?
Exactly.
Oh, personnel issues and all kinds of
Hence
stuff.
why a system like this exists, right?
That's right.
Because there's a lot of businesses that are like, we don't have any issues. What are you talking about? Well, are you actually talking to your people and finding out what issues they're fighting with every single day? And do you have a framework that allows you to surface those issues up and actually do something and process them? I could wax poetic about EOS, but when we did that, we realized that we needed to continue to shift leadership structure within Level 3. And that's when I stepped into the CEO role and started having a much heavier influence on the sales side of the business as well.
How do employees deal with change in a company as you change these things? Is it resistive, or is it hey, yeah, let's open arms, you saved me?
It's never enough. No, it's
I'm asking these questions because these are great questions, and we don't have this typical on the podcast, right? But like,
well, you guys obviously don't have any issues, and
we're perfect.
You manage change perfectly. Everybody just adopts all the new crazy ideas you bring into the company, right?
Hey,
I don't have any ideas. I'm dumb.
I was saying, I don't know. My team's perfect.
Yeah.
So,
Right, Nate.
Yeah, Nate, come on,
right.
man.
Nate's team.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
issues.
Done.
Everybody's happy. Change management's not a thing.
Yeah. No issues with other teams. No issues with his team. No issues with. There's never anything.
Oh, and we have perfect collaborations across all states where like we have a team in Utah, we have a team in California, right? Like so they're all the same.
Just
carbon copies.
locked, synced in like
Perfect.
a marching band.
But we don't have to deal with major time zone changes. But it sounds like so you do have some resistance. How do they handle that? I mean, is it something that I just was curious. Like this is more HR-y, I guess you could ask this
is
question.
More just human-y, right?
Human-y,
like these
yeah.
are human questions at the end of the day. No, humans don't like to change. Not all of them, though. I mean, like you probably know some people. I am one of those people that is kind of radically accepting of change, especially in technology. So I'll embrace things. Being an IT guy for so long and running IT and technology, like I was always the person that was embracing new software the minute it came out, or new hardware, because I wanted to test it and get ahead of it before I had to roll it out in whatever aspect I needed to. Well, that's wired my brain that way. That's not great for everybody else in the company. Right. I'm just recognizing that right now. Because I will want to embrace something that I see so very clearly can have an impact on the company, but it's a lot harder to change 130 people than it is to change 5 people's mindset. And everybody has different commitment levels to how much time and effort and energy they're going to give to your business, and change takes extra time above and beyond what you're already doing in order to embrace that. Like AI, we can talk about AI. That's a perfect example of crazy change happening within the business without a perfect vision or clarity as to where it's going to end up. Like it's like more play and experiment, and no, seriously, I want you to take time to play and experiment. Like that is a change, just to take time and try to do a workflow differently. So no, it's really, really hard. It is helpful to lead from the top of the organization, right? You got to lead by example. So if you're gonna expect everyone else to change, you got to kind of drive some of that change as well. And then you can never communicate enough. Even when you think you're communicating enough, you're not communicating enough.
That's a good.
Not even close.
Yeah.
They say it's like 7 times that you have to say the same thing before it's actually recognized and heard. And I take that a step further in the business, because I'll get like a manager who's like, man, I've communicated and I've said and I've trained and they're just still not doing it. It's like, well, but did you send a Teams message? Did you also send an email? Did you also send a little video? Like these different wrappers of content, you got to say the same thing multiple times. That's the whole secret, in my opinion.
No, I like that.
To change management is communicate 10 times more than you think you are. Like if you think you're doing it enough, you're not. Because what's in your brain, respectfully,
yeah, no,
you've got to get it into everybody else's brain, especially if you're the one driving the change.
Yeah.
And you see it so clearly, right?
Preach.
You're like,
just kidding. But no, I'm serious. Like, I think I like, running a company, you have certain vision, right? Like, you're like, this is where we got to go. You feel like you got some clarity.
oh yeah.
And then trying to pass that along, and then they have their own vision. Like you said, it's a lot. So
It's crazy.
I need to start reading these books, because clearly I'm just going off of like, we live in
It's helpful.
we live in the Wild West. So here we kind of just, this is what my wife says to me, hey, here you kind of just do your thing. And I'm like, oh, okay.
That's why you're in Arizona.
I even got the shirt.
You have cactus on your.
Yeah, I
on your
do.
shirt.
I had to represent. Somebody one time told me this. It was funny. I'm from LA, but like one time somebody said to me, says, "What's in Gilbert, Arizona? Just a whole bunch of like wholesome families." That's what they told me.
I mean,
I
think actually statistically that's true.
That is true. But I wanted to tell them this.
place.
They're like, there's no tech coming out of here. There's no. They started going through this stuff, right? And I'm like, well, where's the tech coming from? They're like, Tempe, Arizona. I go, oh, even better.
Yeah.
So I was
Down the street.
Yeah, down the street.
So
I just kind of chuckled, because it was just like, no, you haven't actually seen the facilities. Like, you don't even work with the tech companies that we worked with. Like, I think you live in a box, and like every state, every city has like really smart people.
Oh, yeah.
And all of them are solving really tough problems. And then like on top of that, then, getting groups and teams to listen to the vision, like you're saying. So, I mean, all this stuff is good. It's like, I wish I need to devote some time to reading books and doing this stuff. We've had several guests who have quoted like great books and mission statements and things that are really important. So this is good. Yeah, this is one part of the podcast, like, because we're big time into, part of the reason I do this, right, is mentorship, entrepreneurship, giving college kids an insight or a window into what it's like, or even if you're not like in college or high school or whatever it is, just the younger generation, what is it like to go from point A, where you don't know, you think you know what you're doing, to like B, C, and your career paths change as we get older. So that's part of this. So this is great.
I love that.
Yeah, it actually brings
Super
to
passionate.
one of my questions that I love to hear is, what's the advice you give to people? Because hearing your story, it sounds very much like, a lot like mine. I didn't grow up saying, hey, I'm going to be an acoustician one day. Like, that's not, I would have never thought I was here. I started off in film and video, and then opportunities arose. And something from left field comes in, and you're kind of think you're dumb for not taking it. And it sounds like you kind of had the same experiences in some ways.
I would say so. But do you have a degree in acoustics?
No.
Do you?
I do.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay, so that's, I think, one of the fundamental. It's interesting that you ended up in acoustics, but a little bit different pathway than maybe the way these guys did. There is no degree for audiovisual.
Yeah.
There is no degree for learning how to do what we do. So I'm incredibly passionate about this topic because it's a huge issue. We're experiencing labor issues in our industry because of people just don't even know it exists.
So is there even like a trade school or anything? Like how does one, I mean, I know how you got into it. It was totally.
How are you finding labor?
So the electrical contracting trade is really, really close, or data technicians, right? So there's still a huge, and I mean, the audiovisual, commercial audiovisual, there's a lot of different opportunities. But if you're looking at coming into the trade and learning from the ground up, you're going to start by installing. And that installing looks a lot like an electrical contractor. A lot of the same hand tools, a lot of the same mindset, a lot of the same experience. You're spending more time on job sites, maybe cleaner, nicer job sites. We tend to get to spend some time in some really pretty places, but you're having to bring tools, and there's a trade element to it. To answer your question, because this is something I'm very passionate about, AVIXA, if you're familiar with AVIXA or Infocom.
I'm familiar with Infocom.
Are you guys a member?
I don't know what either of those are.
And I wouldn't imagine you would be. Like, I wouldn't think an acoustics company would see AVIXA as a place to be. So that's the trade organization for AV. Okay. Right? So they provide a trade show once a year in Vegas or in Orlando, where essentially all the manufacturers for AV come together and you have a big trade show. They also provide standards, and they provide education. So they've done like design standards or installation standards. They try to bring together the best minds in the industry and put them together to establish industry standards, which is what, telecom and a lot of other industries, like, it's the attempt at our industry to be a more mature version of itself by having standards. That's the governing body.
AVIXA. Okay.
They have done ANSI certifications, 3-year certifications. So CTS, CTSI, CTSD.
They're behind all that?
They're behind all of that.
Okay.
That's
all.
all.
So we do know the acronyms, and obviously there's going to be some acoustics firms that are, definitely have staff that are obviously doing AV design.
Yep.
Right. But yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so sorry to interrupt, but keep going on that. So they're behind all the standards.
Especially if you were a consultant that was like a commercial AV focused consultant.
Yeah,
and
that's
probably be a part of.
They would potentially be part of that or familiar with that. Us, we're totally not into that. So just kidding. No.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, that makes sense. So so AVIXA, they're behind all these CTS, like you're saying, all these acronyms and getting those.
They are.
Okay.
They have a whole education. They're trying.
Certifications, I guess it
they
is.
do. They're trying in the industry to build relationships and partnerships with colleges and universities that want to build programs around this, because this is an industry-wide problem, like attracting people into, hey, you might, and it's not just as an installer, you can go into project management, you can go into engineering, a little different than what you might think of as professional engineering that you would go get.
Sure.
Versus AV engineering or technological engineering. You can go into programming and software development. You can go into logistics. You can go into accounting, right? Like, there's so many components to the AV industry, but that's a really good kind of entry point. So no, there's nowhere you can go to learn.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
stuff.
So why do you think that is? Like, I mean, because you can go and there's people like Full Sail and different things like that specialize in broadcasts, and there's recording arts,
recording studios,
different things like that.
Yeah.
Where there's these schools. Why do you think there's not one for audio video? And from what you were saying, it sounds like you really can come from lots of different backgrounds.
Oh yeah.
And
I mean, there's a huge swath of potential projects, from the home audio all the way to, like, you're talking stadiums and bigger.
100%.
Airports. Train stations, if you're in Europe, not here, right? I mean, there's just
well, I mean, and the way that
100%.
audio and video has kind of taken over things. I mean, I remember the first time I walked in a restaurant and I saw that the menu is up on a TV.
Yep.
And in a previous life, I worked, doing some stuff where we'd redesign the menus and we'd shoot them right over and pop up within the next day.
Printing, he was in printing.
So yeah,
Nate was in printing.
Yeah, I yes, Nate was in large format printing.
I believe the answer, Nate, to your question is that the industry, it's a timing thing for the industry, right? Like, we are still maturing as an industry. There are other industries that you can look at, like telecommunications or electrical, that are just more mature. They're further down the path. They have more standards in place. When you build a building, do you ever think you're going to build that building without putting electrical in it? No. It wasn't very long ago that the question of whether or not you were going to put AV in it was a hard maybe. But it's now becoming critical.
It's regular.
Like
now, and like, I think look, I'm biased because I've been in the industry for a long time, but really, COVID accelerated this significantly.
Really?
Because everybody now needed a platform to be able to leverage people working from home and continuing to do business. So all this video conferencing stuff and savings on travel, and you can do this really well from all over the place, that we've been selling for 15 years, but only certain companies buy into it. All of a sudden, everybody bought into it. So now AV is no longer a nice to have. It's I actually can't do my business. And what happens if the world goes into another pandemic and everybody has to go home?
Yeah.
Anybody who hadn't made a decision on Microsoft Teams or Zoom or WebEx at the moment that COVID happened was like really realizing that they should have made a decision, because having a platform that everybody could have used. So I think all of these are contributing factors to the growth of our industry. Give it another 5 years, and I think you're going to see more recognized trade school capability bringing people into the space.
So what you're saying is COVID was a good thing.
I think there's a perspective.
That's not controversial at all.
No, that's not controversial. Hey, that's Nate talking, not Robert.
I think with everything, there's duality and good and bads, but
No,
that was an interesting.
It just
outcome.
It sounds like it took something that was, hey, this is really cool. We're kind of different for having, to it's now a necessity.
Totally.
And then afterwards, it's become even more of a necessity, and it continues to be a necessity because that's what we now it's now the normal.
Totally. My background being IT and networking, if you look at the telecommunications industry, it follows a really similar arc, right? Where it was a nice to have, and then it was, I can't do my business without my network infrastructure. And when that happened, the industry continued to mature and build standards around it into what it is today, where it's a very standardized, repeatable process. I think that's where AV is going as well, at least to a certain extent.
Could you imagine running a business without internet?
No.
No, of course not.
Right.
No.
Like, it's just
It'd be awesome if I could, and actually make a sustainable living.
Yeah.
I'm asking my kids these days, like, can you imagine like going to college without AI? They're like, no. They don't have college without AI. Could you imagine how much faster we would have been?
Oh man.
Well, when I was in school, like there's a 10-year gap between Samuel and I, and both coming from the same, school and program. The difference was like the web, pretty much in the 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s, to like, the 2008, 9, 10, right? Mm-hmm. And then the programs and they have, I don't want to say it because like it was called Maple at one point, this program, and it's now Wolfram Ming. What is it?
Mathematica. You got
Wolfram
Alpha.
Oh, there you go.
Mathematica.
That didn't exist in the world that I was at. So like we just sit there and do a lot of anyway. The point is like,
does he have a drafting table?
In a decade, that's right. But it was only a decade. That was only 10 years. You know what I mean?
Up, old man.
So 10 years.
So long.
That is so long. And here we are. We're like 3 years into AI, and 10 years from now, like I honestly am. I think about my kids. Obviously, we all do
all the time.
And I'm just like, what is their career path going to be, and how is not just AI, but what is the profession they're going to choose, and how is that going to change? And then you think of like your grandparents.
Oh my goodness.
And it's just
and how much in 100 years where we've come.
It's
wild.
It's crazy.
So I have a different question for you. So AV is kind of at an intersection of a lot of things, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
AV and acoustics kind of come into that intersection. Low voltage electricity, IT. They all kind of meet in the middle right there. I want to hear kind of your take on what, especially for our listeners that aren't in the world of commercial design, what exactly is AV and how does it intersect with those other disciplines?
Wow. Asking the big questions.
He's the smartest one here, so he's asking the hard ones.
What is AV and how?
How would you explain this to a high schooler? I got a 17, 18-year-old nephew who are kind of figuring out what do they want to do. And when you say AV, you know exactly what you're talking about, and they have no clue.
So you want me to say it to somebody who knows nothing about AV? It's like the way I describe it to my dad. Well, I install TVs, Dad. Really big, high-end TVs that are hooked to switching systems. It's a good question. I think of AV as, it's really easy to connect with kids from an audio perspective, because it's like, do you like really cool sounding bassy audio systems? Well, that's what the A is, right? Think concert sound system to your iPod.
Yeah.
We're dating ourselves.
Yeah, we're dating ourselves. Oh, iPod.
Our iPod, right? Like, because that's really what it is. It's such a spectrum, like you just said. It's from a personal device playing audio to a concert loudspeaker playing audio and everything in between. But it's really reproducing sound waves and making a kick-ass sound system. Like, that connects with kids like crazy. On a conceptual level, I've always thought of AV as where humans interface with technology, right? Because yes, we interface through keyboards and other ways, but you're still having a visual experience through your monitor, right? You're seeing, so that's the video side, is how do I visualize content? How do I connect with technology visually? And then audio is really just the audible side of that, of where you're literally taking voltage and vibrating a driver and creating an image in the air. So it's how humans interface with technology. If I was trying to explain it to somebody who just had no idea, think about going into a shopping mall and all the screens that you see in the shopping mall showing digital signs, right? Like, that's a really easy one to connect. There's companies who literally that's all they do is install those displays. And then there's really cool cloud software programs that push all the content out to all of these screens. I just described about 4 different job opportunities in the AV industry, right? You could be the designer, and this is why it's so difficult. AVIXA, actually, I want to touch on AVIXA. They changed their name because they found that, well, there's the suppliers of equipment, there's the integrators that install the stuff, and then there's the content creators that actually put the content on, because a display means nothing without content, a speaker does nothing without content, right? So now all of a sudden we have all these content providers that don't think of AV, they just want to make cool videos, like they don't think about it from the professional standpoint, but those content providers are now a part of our industry. That's how we're thinking about the industry from an AVIXA perspective. So if you're a graphic designer or a video production specialist, it's easier, I think, to come into the commercial space than ever before. We had a group in recently. It was a group of kids that a friend of mine had arranged for them to come in and just get exposed to AV. And it was like, how do we answer the question that you answered? And we set up little stations, and we had a microphone and a mixer, and was like, this is what an audio system is. And we had a little podcast studio and said, here's what a podcast studio like, and use all of these applications, if you will, to try to help these kids understand all the different job avenues and opportunities that exist in the industry. It's tough.
That's cool.
It's a tough thing.
Yeah, it is.
So if you come in here, right, we actually have very few platforms that are connected to the cloud or whatever. If for our own AV, I'm not saying computer software, I'm saying like if we have speakers or whatever, right? So you're talking to old school analog.
So you're not even using the internet for your business? Like,
no, we use internet, but I'm just saying to run to run like loudspeaker systems. We have like basically Bluetooth connections if we're going to run noise through speakers, right?
Sure.
You got AI that's coming up. I've used one of these controllers, and I'm a dummy, which it is really hard to use some of these systems, right? And I got to imagine programming is difficult. Is there a reason that these things are so, maybe it's gotten better, but I mean, obviously there's a skill set there, right? It's another job opportunity.
Yep.
But what makes these things difficult to somebody like me, and what makes them easier maybe to somebody else, like, that's in that space? Does that make sense? Like you some people who use these things have to be trained thoroughly to actually use the systems, correct?
Are you saying at the end user level? Not
at the end user.
Not the people programming.
Well, so you got the programmers who basically program, turn on the lights, open the curtains, whatever they're doing, right? Hey, we want to have laser beams or whatever, okay?
Sharks.
And sharks and music and this and that. Play the music at this time. Hey, the train's gonna pass through at this time. Like all the programming, there's programming there.
Yep.
But then the end user, who basically is just like, I just envision somebody who's like, I kind of know how to use the system, but if it breaks, I got to make a call to level 3 audio to come fix the system.
Oh, well, so.
Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like they make these things that are kind of, they're not bulletproof by any means.
No.
So to me though, when we engineer solutions like True Blue, and I'm not saying, hey, put acoustic panels on the wall, like people think of reliability, or it's your fault, right? So I'm just curious to know, like, your input on that, like, and will AI solve this problem at some point? Like, will some other dark horse company come out of nowhere and say, we've got the solution? Look, AI is going to solve all the problems for you on the fly.
You asked a lot with that line of questioning.
Woo!
So starting off with an end user struggling to use a engineered program system that an integrator provided.
Is that a thing?
It's definitely a thing.
Okay.
And I would say if that's what's happening, the integrator failed.
Okay. In
a couple of ways. Boiling down the interface, right? You take an engineer and you have them build an interface. And this is why I always said, like, AV is where humans interface with technology. Like, this is it. When you have this multi-million-dollar AV system, and it all boils down to this one touch panel as the user. That's the whole system to use. So the effort you put in to understanding what the actual needs of this system and the user is, one of the biggest misses in our industry is how often is the engineer and the designer talking to the person who's going to use it, especially in commercial. Residential, you tend to be talking to the homeowner a lot of the time. In commercial, it's like, well, I'm working with Nate, the project manager over here, and Nate is not the teacher that's going to be using this lecture hall AV system that I installed. So getting closer to the actual people, thorough training, and then, I hate to say it, but taking a book out of like Apple, right? You know how to use your phone pretty intrinsically, right?
Not really. I tried. Wow. I have an Apple phone I switched 3 years ago, and I'm telling you,
it really fell flat.
It falls flat, man. I turn on my flashlight by accident like 20 times a day.
Okay.
Like, these things are so touchy.
So are we going to blame the programmer on that one?
Well, it could be my fat fingers.
Okay. Is it design of the hardware, or is it, at what point does the user have to take ownership?
Well, I know. I just said, and not to get off topic here, but I said, I went to this place, like a planetarium. I'm not going to name what. The guy's up there. It's amazing. Acoustic's amazing. The visual amazing, right? Let me hit. That's not the button. And it's like he's like struggling as the end user through a presentation. Lights up over here, the sky over here, but all of a sudden these aren't the things he's supposed to be doing, right? He's way off in La La Land, and I'm thinking in my head, going, employee, ABC, definitely didn't get trained. Then I'm like, I go up and I sneak a peek after, and I'm like looking at this control, right? And I'm like, dude, who would know what to use? Who would even know how to use this thing?
So UI design is a thing, right? Like how you boil it down. Like, really, you need scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. Do you need all the flexibility? Have you ever stood in front of a mixing console?
Yeah. A lot of buttons.
You need all those buttons if you're an audio engineer. So that's the other thing is, am I training an audio engineer to use the system, or am I training somebody who's not technical but really just needs to automate those things? So that I have seen really good, really successful interfaces created with Crestron and AMX that boil really complex systems down to really simple automation.
And I love that. And you're hitting it right on the head where I want to go with this, because I think for somebody like me and somebody that's, look, the big businesses out there, the enterprise that you're talking about, there's money in these spaces where a lot of engineers, a lot of people and we're not just talking, you got the software engineer, you got the integrator, who've put a ton of effort into this thing to make these things simplified. And if it doesn't flow seamlessly, like I just think of like the Olympics that are coming up to Los Angeles, right? There's going to be a lot of these things going on. If it's not simplified or whatever, it's a failure on kind of everybody's behalf. But I just think like this is why you exist in some ways, part of it, right? Helping these bigger companies simplify what is complex. And I'm hoping Crestron, and it sounds like they do that too, right? Obviously. So
Crestron's a platform. They give you a lot of tools to be able to solve the challenges or create solutions. But I think the way you just described integrators is probably the most appropriate description. Our role is to take complex technology and simplify it down so that anyone can use it to achieve the business outcome they're trying to achieve, right? If you're a CEO and you just paid $300,000 for this incredible, beautiful boardroom and you can't walk in and use it, is that a fail? Yeah, that's a hard fail, right?
Oh.
That's a totally hard fail. Does that CEO need all the bells and whistles on the touch panel? Maybe it's a technical CEO, but that kind of comes back to the point of know who's going to use the system and try to build it for the need that they are. Now let's talk about that for a second, because our industry traditionally has made a lot of money on custom control applications, and every conference room that we did, every stadium, all had a control system element to it. Now about 80 to 90% of conference rooms have no custom control system. It's a native Teams room from Microsoft, it's a native Zoom room from Zoom, or it's a Cisco WebEx room from Cisco, or it's a Google Meet room. These are UIs that are owned by the platforms. This is a fundamental change that's happened in our industry in less than 10 years, right? So now integrator A versus integrator B versus integrator C delivering rooms for the same client in different spaces might have very different interfaces. So if you're a traveling executive and you go to your San Jose office versus your New York office, and it's a totally different experience, well, the industry collapsed that, and Microsoft and Zoom did, because now it's like, I don't care if you're using Crestron or you're using Logi or you're using Neat or Poly, any of the hardware, the interface looks exactly the same. It's a Microsoft Teams interface. It's getting rid of this conversation. And now everybody just yells at Microsoft if they don't like how the
Rightfully
interface
so.
if they don't like how the interface is laid out.
That's
but
awesome.
But that's changed.
Good.
Like that's changed a lot in the industry.
So that just shows you how much I'm out of touch, which is okay, right? But like those are just some of the questions I'd had on my mind. Like one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, and I'm glad you answered them, because it's like, I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things, like over the years for me, I'm obviously not tech savvy. I've stayed out of that. And but I've just seen, when I go and witness these things, even today, and this wasn't like last year. No, this was just very recent. And I'm looking at these things going, but it sounds like it's training, obviously. And then the integrator failed in terms of that. So that makes sense.
There's a lot of opportunity there. Like I've seen people program touch panels with a help button that literally you push the button and it walks you through a video and shows you how to use the panel. How cool would that have been in your experience, right?
That would have been amazing.
There's little opportunities. I think there is a technical component to that, but UI design is it's a specialty.
So we're kind of running out of time here, but I was gonna say, do you have any, what's your favorite project you ever worked on? Do you have one?
Wow. Favorite project that I've ever worked on? Yeah, it was for a large global financial institution on the 56th floor in downtown Chicago. It was a 3-way divisible MPR, and it was, you talked about change earlier today, and this particular client has deployed this standard room. And when I say a standard room, it's probably the most complex room they have in their fleet, but they've standardized it. Like this is a company that's spent a lot of time and money trying to standardize a very complex room. And they had made a decision to fundamentally change one of the routing engines inside of the system. So they had been building this system for over 10 years in one factor, and they were ready to rip out some key brain components and move over to a new technology, which presented a whole bunch of really big challenges for us because nobody had ever done this. They had never done this within their system. And by the way, we had never done one of these rooms for them before. So our whole claim to fame is quality management and the approach we take at verifying quality. And they chose us to do this system because they knew we would put the rigor in to work out all the bugs before the thing got deployed. And we're pretty far down the line, so I did some project management, but I actually wrote the audio DSP for this system, and it was like 560 channels of Dante audio.
Wow.
It was a crazy DSP rig, and we delivered it. And this is a client that we stage everything, right? So we pre-build, pre-stage everything at our facility. They came and spent 2 weeks at our facility pushing buttons, doing what we were just talking about, making sure the control interface is exactly how they wanted their operators. And we even had a couple of issues that we couldn't solve that the manufacturer had to update firmware. And so we all agreed that we've taken this as far as we can. We're calling it a fail because we actually can't do the 3 things that we need to, but we're agreeing as a team that we're going to pack it up and go install it on site because we have manufacturers working with us to get these fixes in place. So it was such a cool coordination of client and integrator and trying to manage such a big change and getting to be the ones that did that. And I mean, the rack room for this 56th floor had a window overlooking downtown Chicago. Like the environment was totally,
that's awesome.
It was totally cool. It was totally cool.
So,
but there's been a lot.
So I just have one last thing, because we've talked a lot about change. We've talked a lot about, how the industry's changed. What's the future of audio video?
Oof. That's a great question.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Hey,
There it is.
If I couldn't have had that come up faster. So for the audience, if you didn't hear that, right, like Siri was like, I don't understand the question because it's a hard question to answer. But when you were asking about AMX and Crestron, and I started the conversation with kind of talking about the history of the industry being a specialty low voltage industry separate from the network. Well, now we're all tied into the network. We have AI. I don't know, fully answer your question about AI, but the industry's ripe for a software revolution. A lot of what happens in the AV industry is driven by manufacturers that are hardware manufacturers first, because that's the way the industry started, of course, when you're not sitting on a network and there's not software driving all of it. But we're now sitting at this real pivotal moment where the Crestons, the AMXs, a lot of them are going to be struggling and challenged with the fact that software is going to start defining our industry. And I think that's the future of AV in the next 10 to 15 years, is starting to see the silos break down, the standards really take shape, because you can go get a product from company A and a product from company B, and they don't always talk very well together. So having like single pane of glass monitoring systems and data points on all of this AV is a really difficult thing to do today. We're making strides, but we're nowhere near, because again, I think we're coming at it from a hardware mindset. So software guys are going to come into this industry and just change everything, and it's truly going to become, you know, a service delivered much more like the rest of our IT services.
Interesting.
So you'd almost say that those people who are coding and knowing that stuff, there's a big spot for them.
There's a window there.
Big time. Well, and two more things. I'll touch on AI and what will never go away. And this is the beauty of AV. No matter what happens, you still have to transition those voltages and waves back to actual physical waves. There will always be transducers that create sound waves. So you guys are good.
I was nervous for a minute.
Yeah, I bet you were. Yeah. And there will always be the visual component. You will always have to transmit those ones and zeros back to some way that we as humans can perceive those things. Yeah. So even though it's software defined, there's always going to be a hardware element to AV.
It'll never go away.
Are you at all concerned about hackability?
Big time.
Okay. Maybe you can elaborate just a little bit on that.
Oh yeah. So because everything sits on the network now, AV is now probably, in my opinion, one of the largest attack vectors that sit on most people's networks. Because, as I said, love you guys, truly love you, couldn't do my business without you, but a lot of the AV manufacturers out there are hardware minded. They're not coming from a place of, oh, this needs to sit on a highly secure corporate network. They are making strides and they are investing in these areas, but we're a little bit behind from an industry perspective. So that piece of it, that's why software has such an opportunity to redefine the industry. Like, here's a great example. How many video conferencing bars are deployed in the world that still have the default admin password on them?
I know, right?
Probably way too many for our comfort level, right? So this is now critical infrastructure that businesses are using to do their business and achieve their outcomes, and they're sensitive to it. This is intellectual property conversations. How are you hardening and securing your audiovisual network the way that we're securing the rest of things? So yeah, no, we're a huge problem. It's a huge problem, and also a huge opportunity for integrators to start taking a step and differentiating themselves by actually investing in the security knowledge and mindset. It's a rare thing to see an integrator with a CISO. I don't have a CISO.
So for all the machine learning experts out there, you see a vulnerability right here. We would like you to make, you can find patches. And you're like, what does that even mean? Well, let me just tell you. If you can hack in and you can hear somebody clicking away on a keyboard, you can transpose that information acoustically.
I bet you can.
So, there's a lot of things that people don't think about, but people like us, we absolutely think about that kind of stuff all the time. But this is interesting. I've had a fun, Jeremy, it's been awesome having you on here.
We could talk for another
we could keep this
2
going.
hours.
Maybe we'll have to have you come back on again, and at some point. And yeah, we plan on going past season 3 here. So we're gonna keep going, hopefully.
If I get an invite back for season 4,
you got
that'd be awesome.
That would be awesome.
You guys are great.
Thanks.
Especially Nate.
Yeah.
Nate really rocked it.